I haven't slept in 3 days. Not really. Every time I close my eyes, I hear it again. That sound. You hear that? That's a coffee mug. Porcelain. We got the set on our honeymoon. She said the glaze looked like trapped smoke. There. That humming. God, that humming. My wife died 3 months ago. I buried her myself. So tell me why she's in the kitchen right now, making coffee. I haven't turned around yet. I'm sitting at the edge of our bed, staring at the bedroom door. It's cracked open. Just enough to see the hallway light bleeding through. Just enough to hear her moving around out there like it's any normal Tuesday morning. Cup, spoon, cabinet. She always opens the cabinet twice because it sticks the first time. There it is. Exactly the same. It's the little details that make it worse. If this were some shadow in the corner, some faceless thing whispering my name, that would be easier. But this is routine. This is muscle memory. This is my wife humming the same stupid song she used to hum every single morning while she made coffee. She doesn't even sing words, just that broken melody. She used to say lyrics ruined a perfectly good tune. I haven't heard that sound in 92 days. 92 days since the rain. 92 days since the headlights. 92 days since I watched them close a casket I never opened. She knows I'm awake. I can tell. The house gets quiet when she knows I'm listening. Not silent, just waiting, like it's holding its breath. That's the third step from the kitchen, the one that dips in the middle. She always avoided it. Said it sounded like a gunshot at night. She stepped on it. On purpose. Another step. Slow. Measured. Not floating. Not scraping. Footsteps. Bare feet on hardwood. Exactly the way she used to walk when she didn't want to wake me. I haven't turned around yet, because if I turn around, if she's not there, then I'm losing my mind. But if I turn around and she is there, then something followed her home from that grave. She's right outside the bedroom door. I can see the shadow under it. Still, waiting, just like she used to wait for me to say good morning first. She always said she liked hearing my voice before hers. 3 months ago, I stood in a cemetery outside town and watched them lower her into the ground. I remember thinking, at least she looks peaceful. I remember thinking, at least she won't feel cold. But the air in this room just dropped 20 degrees. And I can smell her perfume, vanilla and cedarwood. She wore it every day, even in the car, even in the rain. She's behind me now. I can feel the weight of someone standing there, not touching, just close enough that if I lean back, Danny, that's my name. That's her voice, exactly as it was. No echo, no distortion. Warm, familiar, loving. My wife died 3 months ago. I buried her myself. So tell me, why is she in my bedroom, holding a cup of coffee and humming like she never left? I think I'm finally going to turn around. My wife is a ghost. Before you decide I'm crazy, you need to understand something. Emily wasn't just my wife. She was the kind of person who made rooms feel smaller in the best way, like the world narrowed down to wherever she was standing. We met at the University of Oregon. Freshman year, I was majoring in communications because I didn't know what else to pick. She was studying architecture. She said buildings had souls. I thought that was adorable. She thought I was emotionally underdeveloped. We met in the campus library. I was pretending to study. She was actually studying. She had this habit of tucking her hair behind her ear when she concentrated, like the world required physical adjustment before she could solve it. I remember the first thing she ever said to me. You're staring. No smile, no softness, just direct. I told her I liked her notebook. It had sketches of old houses in it, Victorian trims, wraparound porches, narrow staircases. She didn't draw modern buildings. She said new houses had no memory. Old ones did. I asked her out a week later. Our first date was at a cheap theater downtown. We watched The Conjuring, her choice. I spent half the movie watching her instead of the screen. She didn't jump at the scary parts. She leaned forward, interested, curious. Afterward, while I was still trying to act brave, she said, "If I ever haunt someone, I'd do it quietly, no screaming, just enough to make them question themselves." She said it like a joke. I should have paid more attention to the way she said it. We got married 4 years later. Small ceremony, outdoor lights. She cried during her vows. I didn't. Not because I didn't want to, because I couldn't believe someone like her chose someone like me. For our honeymoon, we drove out to Cannon Beach. Cold wind, gray water. That massive rock rising out of the ocean like something ancient and watching. She loved that beach. Said it felt haunted in a peaceful way. We walked barefoot, even though it was freezing. She collected smooth stones and said she wanted to build a house one day that felt like that shoreline. Weathered, enduring, full of stories. When we came home, she started dragging me to open houses. Not the new builds, never the new builds. She wanted narrow hallways, original wood floors, windows that rattled in storms. We found this place 2 years later, built in 1924, just outside town. White paint peeling at the corners, a wraparound porch that sagged slightly on the east side. The realtor apologized for the quirks. Emily called them character. The first time we walked through it, she closed her eyes in the foyer, just stood there, breathing it in. "It remembers things," she whispered. I laughed, but we bought it, because when she looked at that house, she looked the way she looked at me when I proposed. Certain, that first year here was perfect. Morning coffee in the kitchen, music playing too loud on Sundays, her sketching renovation ideas at the dining table. She always said the house creaked differently at night, like it was settling into us. One night, maybe 6 months after we moved in, we were lying in bed listening to rain hit the windows. She rolled onto her side and said, "If I die first, I'm haunting this place." I told her to shut up. She nudged me. "I'm serious. I love it here too much." "You'd scare the hell out of me," she grinned. "No, I wouldn't. I'd just move things, maybe hum in the kitchen." She started humming right then. Soft, off-key, that same broken little melody. "I'd never leave you, Danny," she said, not joking anymore. Not even if I had to come back transparent. I remember the way the streetlight hit her face when she said it. Warm, alive, certain. I kissed her and told her ghosts weren't real. She said houses disagree. I didn't believe in hauntings. I didn't believe in unfinished business. I believed in mortgages, in weekend grocery runs, in the way she wrinkled her nose when she concentrated. We had a rhythm, predictable, safe. And if you'd asked me then, before the rain, before the headlights, if I was happy, I would have told you yes, without hesitation. Because we weren't the couple that screamed at each other. We weren't dramatic. We were steady, solid. Like that house, old wood, deep roots, full of memory. And maybe that's why I didn't see it coming. The cracks, the small silences stretching longer. The way she started standing at the bedroom window some nights, just looking out at nothing. I would ask what she was thinking about. She'd say, "Just imagining what stays behind when we're gone." I thought she meant architecture. I thought she meant legacy. I didn't know she meant something else. If I had known how little time we had left, I would have memorized everything. The way she held her coffee mug, the way she avoided the third step on the staircase, the exact pitch of her humming. Because now that sound is the only proof I have that she was ever really here. And sometimes, late at night, when the house creaks just right, it almost feels like it remembers her, too. It was raining the night she died. Not dramatic, movie-style rain, just steady, cold, relentless. The kind that makes the road look like it's breathing. We were driving back from dinner. Nothing special, just Thai food and a conversation about cabinet handles. That's the part that keeps replaying in my head. Cabinet handles. We weren't fighting, not really. It was the kind of argument married people have when they're tired. She wanted brushed nickel. I said black matte. She said black matte showed fingerprints. I said that was the point. It looked lived in. She laughed at that. But it wasn't warm laughter. It was the kind that means something else is underneath. The wipers kept time with the silence. Thup, thup, thup. I remember glancing over at her. Streetlights sliding across her face in broken gold streaks. She was staring out the window, watching the rain race sideways. "You're quiet," I said. "I'm thinking." "About cabinet handles?" She didn't answer right away. Then she sighed. "No, not about cabinet handles. That should have been my cue. But I was tired, and pride is a stupid thing. So instead of asking what she meant, I said, 'You always do this.'" She turned slowly. "Do what?" "Make everything heavier than it needs to be." Her jaw tightened. The rain got louder. Or maybe I just noticed it more. "It's not about the cabinets, Danny." "I know." "Do you?" Silence again, the kind that fills up the entire car. She reached over then, not to argue, not to push, just to take my hand. Her fingers were cold from the window glass. She squeezed once. "I don't want us to become one of those couples who just coasts," she said softly. I swallowed. "We're fine." Another pause. "Are we?" That was the last full sentence she ever spoke to me. Because the next thing I remember was light. Blinding. White. Headlights cutting through rain like something alive. Too close. Too fast. A horn. My hands jerking the wheel. Tires screaming against wet asphalt. Her gasp. And then metal folding. Glass exploding. The world flipping sideways. Sound disappeared first. Just a deep underwater ringing. I remember hanging upside down, seatbelt digging into my chest, rain pouring through shattered windshield. The car tilted at an angle that didn't make sense. I tried to say her name, but my mouth filled with the taste of pennies. I turned my head, slowly, and I saw her. Her eyes were open, but not focused. Blood threaded through her hairline like dark veins. "Emily?" I said, or thought I said. I reached for her, and everything went black. When I woke up, everything was white. White ceiling, white lights, white noise. My ribs felt like they'd been rearranged. There was a nurse adjusting something beside me. I tried to sit up. "Where's my wife?" She didn't answer. That's when I knew. Doctors don't answer quickly when the answer is bad. A man in scrubs came in later. Gray hair, kind eyes, too kind. He used words like trauma and impact and severe cranial damage. He said they did everything they could. He said she didn't suffer. I clung to that one. Didn't suffer. Like it was a gift. I asked to see her. He hesitated, just for half a second. And that half second has lived in my skull ever since. He said the crash had damaged her too badly, that it would be better if I remembered her the way she was, alive, whole, smiling. I nodded, because what else do you do? I signed forms, I stared at walls. I learned how to breathe again without breaking. They released me 2 days later. I went home alone. The funeral was closed casket. Everyone said it was beautiful. White flowers, soft music, people telling me she lit up rooms. I stood next to a wooden box and nodded like a malfunctioning machine. I never saw her body. Not in the hospital, not before they closed the lid, not before they lowered her into the ground. I told myself it was mercy, but sometimes, late at night, I wonder if that was my first mistake. After everyone left, after the casseroles stopped arriving, after the house settled back into its natural silence, that's when the drinking started. Not dramatic, not spiraling, just a glass of whiskey before bed. To sleep. Then two. Then I stopped measuring. The house felt wrong without her. Too large. Too hollow. Sound traveled differently. The refrigerator hummed louder. The pipes knocked in the walls. And the floors creaked like someone pacing. I told myself it was old wood. Expansion. Weather. Memory. But one night, about a week after the funeral, I heard something else. Not a creak. Not plumbing. Humming. Soft. Off-key. Familiar. I froze on the couch, glass halfway to my mouth. It came from the hallway, just outside the bedroom, that same broken little melody she used to hum in the kitchen. I stood up, slowly. The sound stopped. I checked every room. Nothing. Windows locked, doors shut. I laughed at myself. Grief does strange things. I went back to bed. Around 2 a.m., I woke to another sound. A closet door. Opening. Not slamming. Not banging. Just the soft click of the latch releasing. I sat up. The bedroom door was closed. The hallway was dark. I got out of bed and walked to the closet. The door was slightly open. Just an inch. Inside, her clothes, still hanging exactly the way she left them. And on the floor, one of her shoes, tilted on its side, like it had just been nudged. I stood there a long time, listening, waiting. The house was silent, completely silent, until, very faint, from somewhere deeper in the house, a single floorboard creaked. The third step on the staircase, the one she always avoided. I told myself it was grief, that the mind fills empty spaces with echoes, that love doesn't just vanish, it lingers, in habits, in muscle memory, in sound. I told myself that's all it was, an echo. But echoes don't open doors, and they don't hum the same song, at the exact same pitch. And that was the first night. I realized the house didn't feel empty anymore. The first time I smelled her, I almost dropped to my knees. Vanilla. Cedarwood, that perfume she wore even when we weren't going anywhere. It hit me in the hallway outside our bedroom, not faint, not imagined, strong enough that I could almost taste it. I stood there, breathing it in like oxygen. "Emily?" I said. The name felt stupid the moment it left my mouth. The house didn't answer, but the air felt occupied, like someone had just walked past me. I checked the bathroom. Empty. Checked the closet. Empty. When I turned back toward the dresser, that's when I saw it. Her hairbrush. It had been inside the top drawer since the funeral. I remember putting it there. Couldn't stand looking at the strands of blonde still tangled in the bristles. Now it was sitting on the dresser. Perfectly centered, like it had been placed, not dropped, placed. My throat tightened. I told myself I must have taken it out. Grief fog, whiskey, sleep deprivation. There's always an explanation if you want one badly enough. I put the brush back in the drawer, closed it, stood there for a long time, waiting for something else to move. Nothing did. The next morning, I found a coffee mug on the kitchen counter. Not just any mug, the blue porcelain one from our honeymoon, the one she always used. It was sitting beside the sink, steam no longer rising, but a faint ring of warmth still clinging to the ceramic when I touched it. My stomach dropped. I don't drink coffee anymore, not since the accident. I can't stand the smell. But the machine was on, half a pot gone. The cabinet door above it slightly ajar, the one that sticks unless you pull it twice. I stared at it, waiting for the second tug. It didn't come. The house stayed quiet. Too quiet. That night, I didn't drink. I wanted a clear head. If something was happening, I needed to see it without excuses. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The hallway light was off. The bedroom door opened just enough to show darkness beyond. Sometime after midnight, I must have drifted off, because I woke up to the feeling of being watched. Not a sound, not movement, just awareness. You know that instinct? That animal part of your brain that knows when something is in the room with you? That. My eyes opened slowly, and there she was, standing in the doorway, backlit by nothing, just darkness behind her, her shape unmistakable. The curve of her shoulders, the fall of her hair, bare feet against the wood floor. My heart didn't pound, it stopped. She was wearing the gray sweater she used to sleep in, the one with the loose thread at the cuff. She looked exactly the same, and completely wrong. Her smile was there, but it held too long, like she was waiting for applause. Her eyes, that's what made my stomach twist. They were open, wide, unblinking, too still. Most people's eyes shift slightly when they focus, tiny movements, micro-adjustments. Hers didn't move at all. They locked onto me and stayed there. I pushed myself up on my elbows. My mouth felt dry. Emily? Her smile widened. Not bigger, just stretched. You didn't think I'd leave you alone, did you? Her voice was perfect. No echo, no distortion, warm, soft. Exactly the way it used to wrap around my name. I blinked hard. This is a dream, I told myself. Sleep paralysis, trauma response, the brain protecting itself. You're not here, I whispered. She tilted her head slightly, the way she used to when she thought I was being dramatic. I told you, she said gently, I'd never leave you, Danny. The words slid into the room like they belonged there. She took a step forward. The floor didn't creak, not even the third step. She moved closer to the bed, each motion smooth, controlled, deliberate, still not blinking. Emily, I said again. This time it sounded like a plea. She reached the edge of the mattress, and for a second, just 1 second, something flickered across her face. Not anger, not sadness, recognition, like she was studying me, memorizing me. Then she did something that broke whatever wall I had left. She climbed into the bed. Slowly, the mattress dipped under her weight. The sheets shifted. Her knee brushed my leg. Solid, completely solid. I froze. She moved closer until her body was inches from mine. Her skin touched my arm. Cold. Not icy, not corpse cold, just wrong. Like she'd been standing outside in winter too long. I gasped. She inhaled sharply at the same time, mirroring me. Her hand slid over my chest, rested there, exactly where it used to. Her palm was firm, real. You're shaking, she murmured. I couldn't stop staring at her eyes, still open, still fixed, still unblinking. Are you real? I whispered. Her smile softened, almost loving. Does it matter? She tucked herself against me, her head resting on my shoulder. Just like before. The weight of her familiar. The scent of her hair unmistakable. Vanilla, cedarwood, rain. My body betrayed me. My arms wrapped around her. Because whatever she was, she felt like my wife. And for the first time in 3 months, I wasn't alone in that bed. I lay there rigid, listening to her breathe, slow, measured, but slightly delayed, like she was copying the rhythm instead of creating it. After a long time, too long, I realized something else. She hadn't blinked, not once. And as sleep dragged me under again, her fingers tightened slightly in my shirt, like she was afraid I might try to leave. There is always an explanation. That's what I kept telling myself. Grief hallucinations are common. I read that somewhere. Widowers see their spouses in crowds, hear their voices in empty rooms. The brain hates absence. It fills gaps. Sleep paralysis can cause full-body apparitions. Stress can create tactile sensations. Alcohol withdrawal can trigger auditory distortions. I had all three, so I made a list. I actually sat at the kitchen table while she stood at the stove scrambling eggs and wrote it down. Grief response, sleep disorder, alcohol-related psychosis. I underlined number 3, because that one felt safest. If I was sick, I could fix it. If I was losing my mind, that meant she wasn't really there. Behind me, butter sizzled in the pan. "Overthinking again?" she asked lightly. I turned. She looked normal. Morning light coming through the window, hair pulled back, bare feet against the tile, spatula in hand. Completely solid, completely wrong. "You're cooking," I said quietly. "You're welcome," she smiled. She blinked, once, slowly. I almost felt relieved. Ghosts don't blink, right? I stopped drinking, cold turkey. The headaches were brutal, sweats, shaking hands. But she stayed, day and night. If this was withdrawal, it was persistent. If it was sleep paralysis, it had excellent stamina. I started researching hauntings, real cases, documented ones. Late at night, while she sat cross-legged on the couch watching me instead of the television, I read about Ed and Lorraine Warren, about the house that inspired the Amityville horror, poltergeists, residual energy, intelligent hauntings. Most accounts described violence, scratches, voices growling, objects thrown across rooms. Emily didn't do any of that. She cooked. She folded laundry. She reorganized the bookshelf because, apparently, I had no system. If this was a haunting, it was domestic, subtle, worse, because it felt sustainable, like she planned to stay. The first real crack came when my sister visited. Claire hadn't been to the house since the funeral. She brought groceries. Too many. Like food could fix structural damage. I almost didn't let her in. But Emily stood behind me and whispered, "Don't be rude." So I opened the door. Claire hugged me too tightly. "You look awful," she said. "Thanks." She stepped inside. Her eyes flicked around the hallway, like she expected to feel something. People always do in houses like this. Emily stood at the foot of the staircase, watching, silent, smiling. Claire shivered slightly. "Feels colder than I remember." Emily tilted her head. I swallowed. We sat in the kitchen. Claire talked about work, about Mom, about how I should maybe consider therapy. I nodded at appropriate times. And then I made a mistake. I laughed at something Emily said. Claire stopped mid-sentence. "What?" "Nothing," I said. "No, what did you just laugh at?" My stomach tightened. I glanced toward the stove. Emily was leaning against the counter, arms crossed, amused. "Just something she—" I stopped. Claire's face changed. "Something who said?" Silence filled the kitchen. The refrigerator hummed louder. "Daniel," she said carefully, "who are you talking to?" I looked back at Emily. She hadn't moved. Still there. Still solid. Still real. "You can't see her?" I whispered. Claire's chair scraped sharply against the tile. "See who?" Behind her, the cabinet door slammed shut, hard. Claire gasped. I jumped. Emily's smile disappeared. Her eyes darkened slightly. Not glowing, not dramatic, just bruised, like shadows blooming beneath the skin. "Don't," she said softly. The word wasn't for Claire. It was for me. Claire stood up fully now. "You need help." "I'm fine." "You're talking to empty space." "I'm not." A glass slid across the counter by itself. Claire screamed. It shattered on the floor, water spreading across tile like something alive. I turned to Emily. Her jaw was tight. Her hands clenched at her sides. "You don't need anyone else," she said quietly. Claire grabbed her coat. "I'm calling someone." "No," I snapped. Too fast, too sharp. She backed toward the door. "Danny, there's no one here." But there was. She just couldn't see her. That was the problem. No one could. After Claire left, the house felt different. Charged. Emily stood in the middle of the kitchen, still, watching the door long after it closed. "You embarrassed me," she said calmly. My chest tightened. "She's my sister, and I'm your wife." The way she said wife felt territorial, possessive, like a title being defended. "You don't need anyone else," she repeated. Her eyes, they looked darker now, faint discoloration under them, like old bruises surfacing. I stepped closer. "Are you angry?" She blinked slowly, too slowly. "I don't get angry," she said. But the light above us flickered once, hard. That night, I noticed something else. We were in the bathroom. I was brushing my teeth. She stood behind me, arms wrapped loosely around my waist, just like she used to. I watched us in the mirror. For a moment, it looked normal. Then I leaned forward to spit, and she didn't move. Not immediately. There was a delay, half a second, like bad video lag. My stomach dropped. I straightened slowly. In the reflection, her head tilted before her real head did. I froze. In the mirror, her smile widened. In reality, her face was neutral. My breathing quickened. I stared at the reflection. It blinked. She didn't. The version in the mirror looked worse. Skin slightly gray. Darkness pooled under her eyes, like post-mortem staining. Lips tinged faintly blue. "Emily," I whispered. Behind me, her grip tightened. "What?" she asked softly. The reflection's mouth moved a fraction too late, like it was sinking. I spun around. She was inches from my face. Perfect, warm expression, almost concerned. "You look tired," she said. I turned back to the mirror. Now it matched. Perfectly. Nothing wrong, nothing off. Just us, standing in a bathroom in a house built in 1924, like any normal married couple. Except my sister couldn't see her, and cabinets moved when she was upset, and sometimes her eyes looked like something that had been underwater too long. That was the week I stopped trying to prove she wasn't real, because real wasn't the question anymore. The real question was this: if no one else could see her, why could I? And worse, why did she seem stronger when we were alone? And that's when I started to understand. She didn't come back to be seen. She came back for me. I didn't go looking for the truth, not at first. But once you start noticing cracks, you can't stop pressing on them. It started with the truck driver. I don't know why I never asked before. Shock, maybe. Or fear. The night she appeared in the mirror, wrong. I couldn't sleep. She lay beside me, eyes open, breathing in that slightly delayed rhythm, waiting. So I slipped out of bed around 3 a.m., took my laptop to the kitchen, and searched the accident report. Public records, archived locally. The file number was easy to find. I remembered it from insurance paperwork. My hands were steady. That's the part that scares me. They were steady. The report said, single vehicle deviation across centerline, collision with commercial freight truck. Weather conditions, heavy rain. Truck driver survived, minor injuries. Statement recorded. I clicked the attachment. Driver statement, transcript. I read it once, then again, then a third time, because it didn't match the story I'd been telling myself. He said, my car drifted at first, then corrected. Then, driver appeared to deliberately jerk wheel into my lane. Deliberately. He said he saw my face in the split second before impact. Said I was looking at the passenger, not the road. Said it didn't look like panic. It looked like commitment. I shut the laptop, hard. My chest felt tight. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. In my memory, the headlights came out of nowhere. Too fast. Too close. I reacted. I tried to avoid it. Didn't I? Behind me, from the hallway, a floorboard creaked. The third step. Slow. Patient. Waiting. The next few days felt fractured, like someone had taken scissors to my timeline. I started noticing gaps, small ones at first, not remembering brushing my teeth, not remembering turning off lights, but the larger ones were worse. Driving somewhere and not recalling the first 10 minutes, standing in a room and not knowing why. Blackouts, that's what the forums called them. Dissociative episodes tied to trauma, your brain protecting you from unbearable memory. Protecting me from what? The first flash came while I was washing dishes, water running over my hands, the sound triggering something. Rain, windshield wipers, thup, thup, thup. I saw her again, in the passenger seat. But this time, the argument was different, not about cabinet handles. Her voice wasn't tired, it was sharp. You lied to me. I dropped the plate in the sink, porcelain cracked. I grabbed the counter. The memory pushed harder. Her phone in her hand, my messages open on the screen. Not emotional affairs, not love letters, just flirting, careless. Stupid. Validation I didn't need. How long? She asked. It's nothing, I said. You don't get to decide that. The rain was heavier in this version, or maybe that's just how I remember it now. You humiliated me, she said. I didn't. You made me feel small. The car felt tighter, like the air was shrinking. I can't keep doing this, she whispered. That sentence, that was the crack. What does that mean? I asked. It means I'm not happy. Silence. Then the part one buried. I think I need to leave, she said. Leave, not divorce, not break. Leave. Space, distance, time. But in my head, it translated to abandonment. You're overreacting, I snapped. I'm trying to breathe. You're not going anywhere. Her hand reached for the door handle. Not to jump, just instinct, just fear. And God, I grabbed the wheel. Not to correct, not to save us, to stop her from finishing the sentence. Headlights, horn, her scream, but not from surprise, from realization. The jerk wasn't reflex, it was force. I forced the wheel left, into the light. I stumbled backward from the sink, my breathing ragged. The house was silent, too silent. You remember now? She said from behind me. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. You remember what you did. My throat burned. That's not... You were looking at me, she continued gently, not the road. Tears blurred my vision. I didn't mean... You didn't mean to survive? Her voice didn't rise, didn't accuse. That made it worse. I turned slowly. She stood in the kitchen doorway, her sweater damp, like she'd just stepped out of rain. Her eyes darker now, bruising more visible beneath them. Not makeup shadow dark, decomposition dark. I was angry, I whispered. You were scared, she corrected, of losing me. I wouldn't have actually left. You don't know that. Another flash. Hospital ceiling. Doctor saying she didn't make it. Closed casket. Damaged too badly. I never saw her body. Never confirmed. What if you're not haunting this house? I said slowly. What if you're haunting me? Her head tilted, the same way it did in the mirror. I'm not haunting you, Danny. Her voice lowered. I'm reminding you. The lights flickered once. The air dropped colder. I didn't want you to die, I choked. You just didn't want me to leave. Silence filled the room, heavy, suffocating. The truth settled in like dust. This wasn't random. This wasn't grief. She didn't come back because the house remembered. She came back because I do. Because somewhere inside me, the part one locked away knows exactly what happened on that road. You killed me, she said softly. No anger, no rage, just fact. I shook my head violently. I loved you. You loved owning me. The words cut deeper than any scream could. And now, she continued, stepping closer, you don't get to forget. Her eyes were fully bruised now, dark purple pooling beneath gray skin, like blood settling after death. You don't get to rewrite it. I'm sorry, I whispered, the smallest words in the world, too small. She leaned close enough that I felt her breath against my cheek, cold, solid, real. Sorry isn't forgiveness. Her hand rested over my heart, exactly where it used to, but there was no warmth in it now. You don't get forgiveness. And that's when I understood. She isn't here to scare me. She isn't here to throw furniture or crawl on ceilings. She's here to sit beside me, to cook, to hum, to sleep in our bed, to make sure that every quiet moment, every breath, every reflection reminds me of the second I chose control over love, the second I chose myself over her life. And the worst part? I don't think she ever forgave me. And something tells me she's not finished reminding me yet. I tried to pretend I could live with it, with the truth sitting between us like a third body in the bed. But guilt is not quiet. It rots, it swells, it demands to be named. She stood in the living room that night, not cooking, not smiling, just waiting. The lights flickered without rhythm. Wind pressed against the windows, though the forecast said clear skies. I stood across from her, hands shaking, breathing uneven. You want me to say it? I whispered. Her head tilted slightly, not playful anymore, expectant. Say what, Danny? My throat closed. The house groaned around us, floorboards popping one by one like knuckles cracking. I didn't mean to. The front door slammed shut on its own, hard enough to rattle the glass. She didn't flinch. Say it. My knees buckled, and I caught myself on the edge of the table. The words felt like glass in my mouth. I killed you. Silence. Then her body changed. Not all at once, not dramatic, just truth peeling back illusion. Her skin drained of color, pale gray spreading from her fingertips inward, the warm softness gone. Her eyes flooded dark red, not glowing, blood-filled, veins branching outward like fractures in glass. Her neck, God, it bent slightly to the side, at an angle no living person could hold. The injury, the one they wouldn't let me see, revealed. She took a step forward, bones shifting with a faint, wet sound. And when she spoke, her voice carried two tones at once. No, Danny. The walls trembled. You killed us. The word hit harder than any scream. Us. I stared at her, confused, horrified. What do you mean? Her hand moved slowly to her stomach. The sweater darkened there, spreading red like blooming ink in water. I was going to tell you that night. The room tilted. No, I wasn't leaving you, she said. I needed space. I needed you to change. Her eyes locked onto mine. I was pregnant. The world stopped breathing. My mind scrambled backward through memory. Her quiet lately, her nausea in the mornings. the way she'd held her stomach absent-mindedly once and smiled to herself. "You didn't know," she continued, "and I didn't get the chance to tell you." The first picture fell from the wall, glass shattering, then another, frames crashing to the floor as if the house itself rejected our memories. "I would have stayed," she whispered. The air grew thick, heavy. "You just had to let me speak." The house began to shake, not violently, but steadily, like something enormous shifting beneath it. "I didn't know," I said over and over. "I didn't know." She moved closer, her feet no longer fully touching the ground. "You didn't ask." The ceiling light burst. Darkness swallowed the room, except for the faint gray outline of her body. Suddenly, water, up to my ankles, cold, impossible. I stumbled backward. The living room dissolved. Metal surrounded me, bent steel, cracked windshield, rain pouring in. I was back in the car, upside down, seatbelt crushing my ribs, water rising from the floorboards, filling the vehicle. I tried to move, couldn't. Across from me, she hung suspended in her seat, blood drifting upward like smoke. But her eyes were open, locked on mine. "Do you remember?" she asked calmly. The water reached my chest, ice cold. I thrashed. "This isn't real! This isn't real!" The horn blared endlessly somewhere beneath the water. Her voice cut through it. "Do you remember how long I begged?" Flash, her hand on the wheel. "Danny, stop!" Flash, her voice breaking. "Please!" Flash, the second before impact. Her eyes wide. Not angry, afraid. The water filled my mouth. I tried to scream. It flooded in, burning my lungs. I clawed at the seatbelt. It wouldn't release. She unbuckled effortlessly, floating toward me, not swimming, just drifting, her hair spreading around her like dark seaweed. "You had time," she said. The car groaned as if collapsing inward. "You had seconds to let go." Her face inches from mine, skin gray, eyes blood red, neck twisted. "You chose not to." I shook my head violently, bubbles escaping my mouth. "I'm sorry," I tried to say. It came out garbled, water filling every space inside me. Her hand pressed against my chest, right over my heart, the same place she used to rest it in bed. "Do you remember how long I begged?" I nodded frantically, tears mixing with water. "I'm sorry," I forced out again. "I'm so sorry." Her expression didn't change, didn't soften, didn't rage. She leaned closer, lips near my ear, and whispered, "Good." The word vibrated through the water, through my bones, through my skull. The seatbelt snapped tight. The car imploded inward with a deafening crack, and I ripped awake on the living room floor, dry, gasping. The house still, pictures shattered around me, water gone. She stood over me, back in the gray sweater. But no illusion now, no softness, just truth. "I don't want your apology," she said quietly. "I want you to remember." Her form began to fade slightly, edges blurring. "But don't worry," she added. "You will." The third step on the staircase creaked loudly behind her, once, twice, then silence. And for the first time since she came back, she didn't climb into bed that night. Officer 1. Dispatch received a wellness check request from a Claire Matthews. States she hasn't heard from her brother in several days. Possible mental health concerns. Officer 2. Garage doors closed. Officer 1. Copy. Daniel Matthews, Police Department. Sir? Metallic rattle as the side garage door handle is tested. It's unlocked. Officer 2. Jesus. Officer 1. Engines running, windows sealed. He's in the driver's seat. Male, mid-30s, unresponsive. Skin's cool. Officer 2. Time of death? Hard to say. Couple hours at least. Vehicle exhaust routed into enclosed space. No sign of forced entry, no sign of struggle. Officer 2. Suicide? Looks that way. They ruled it carbon monoxide poisoning. Self-inflicted. A grieving husband. Survivor's guilt. Alcohol history. Psychological instability. The report was tidy. Simple. Tragic. No mention of shattered picture frames in the living room. No mention of muddy footprints that didn't match his shoes. No mention of the faint smell of vanilla and cedarwood lingering in the back seat. Claire told them he'd been talking to himself, said he thought Emily was still in the house. That sealed it. Case closed. House listed for sale 3 weeks later. Old homes don't stay empty long. This one didn't either. A young couple bought it in early spring. No children, no pets. They loved the wraparound porch, called the creaking floors charming. The wife stood in the foyer during the showing and closed her eyes. Said the house felt like it remembered things. The realtor smiled politely. Didn't mention Daniel, didn't mention Emily, didn't mention the garage. First morning in the house. Sunlight through kitchen windows. Coffee brewing. The husband sat at the table scrolling on his phone. The wife moved around the kitchen barefoot, exploring cabinets, testing drawers, getting used to the rhythm. Then, softly, absent-mindedly, she started humming. Not a song from the radio, not something popular, just a broken little melody, off-key, gentle, familiar. The husband looked up, frowned slightly. "What?" she asked. He shook his head. "That song." She smiled. "What about it?" He hesitated. "Why does it feel familiar?" She laughed softly. "I just made it up." But she hadn't. The cabinet door above the coffee maker stuck. She tugged once. It didn't open. She tugged again. It gave. Somewhere in the house, the third step on the staircase creaked. Slow. Patient. Waiting. The husband glanced toward the hallway. "Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" She was still humming, still smiling, but for just a fraction of a second, her reflection in the microwave door didn't blink. Emily always did say she'd never leave this house. Then, cut to silence. Truth or conspiracy.